Hey friends, Jewel back with more super cool astrology videos, and I want to talk about the opposition between Venus and Pluto in Synastry. So Synastry is chart comparison, where we put two charts together or on top of each other, and we can see the links between the two charts, how the two people respond to each other. And Venus in someone's characters in our chart is about love, sensuality, what makes us feel good, what we want to invest our money into, what we think is worthy of our attention, and describes our style of loving and how we want to be loved. And Pluto in our chart and in our personality is about attachment, ups and downs, extreme passion, our rage, our what we keep inside of us, and then it eventually turns to resentment. It's the power of the unconscious things that we have yet to deal with, and the way that they kind of run us around until we get down to the business of dealing with them. And so when we have this particular opposition, there's a lot of unconscious stuff, more so, that comes up between two people than there is with a lot of synastry contacts. And it's really important to look at the strength and the style of the Venus person's Venus to see, is this going to be something that they probably back away from or that they become embroiled in? So if the Venus person has a adventurous Venus, if it is not a very retiring Venus or a shy or vulnerable Venus, it's more likely that we're going to see this opposition take hold. Because the Venus person has a sense that they are on the precipice of something huge when they have this particular link, because of the pull that we feel towards the Pluto person and the amount of interest that the Pluto person has for the Venus person. So the hairs go up on the back of the Venus person's neck with this particular opposition. And it's one where the Pluto person is supremely attracted to the Venus person because they see in the Venus person the potential for extreme amounts of emotional investment. They think that they're worthy of that because Venus and Pluto are opposite each other on the natural wheel, the astrological wheel, because we're talking about second, eighth house energies. And so when we have a Venus-Pluto in an opposition, this is really going to bring up the most extreme forms of what the second and the eighth house axis mean. And that is what I have to give versus what I have to take. Because the second house is where we create for ourselves material things that come from our talents and our ability to use those talents to build something, to go out and make money. That's why Venus is related to money. Pluto is other people's money. It is the stuff of the partner. So it's where we invest in another. It's where we want to get in return. So it's interesting when we have these two meeting in an opposition because we see the Pluto person very much wanting to take the resources of the Venus person. The Venus person very much wanting to, or feeling compelled to give those up some way, somehow, to the Pluto person. We have a lot of attraction here, and it's a pull that happens very early on. Now, the Pluto person typically feels very justified in whatever means that they must employ to get the Venus person to respond to them the way that we want. Because Pluto's where we're really, really controlling. It's where we're not willing to let things be as they are. We want to control the outcome because in that we see safety. And so there's a way of, in all Pluto contacts to all planets, in all of Synastry, that Pluto is that part that doesn't really trust life. It wants to control where things are going to end up. So there is going to be a great deal of manipulation that comes up. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to mean crazy, abusive, nutty, crazy-making manipulation. A lot of times that is going to be the case with this opposition. But you have to consider everything, because this one can lend a deeper layer to otherwise healthy, passionate relationship, and you can do okay with this. But a lot of times it's one of those where we don't really end up with equal power. It's not always that the Venus person ends up with a lack of power either. This is kind of the funny part about this opposition. As much as the Pluto person wants the Venus person, and as much as they see them as worthy of investing in them, and I want that, and we're very attracted to each other pretty quickly with this one. We definitely notice each other. The Pluto person typically starts early on, a plan or a way or something, a way of getting the Venus person, a way of making it happen. So they'll draw the Venus person into them in some fashion. And they think that, and at least unconsciously, that they have the upper hand. That's not actually the case, because they are wildly invested and attracted to and attached to the Venus person. This is an addictive opposition. We get addicted to the feelings of intensity that arise in ourselves as a result of a coming together here. So the Pluto person ends up caught by the balls, and they didn't even see it coming, because they often think that they are the one that is justified in using whatever means to an end that they may need to use in order to get the Venus person to respond to them the way that they feel that they need them to. They end up addicted as well. And their motivation in the beginning is to addict. So it's really interesting how we end up playing a game with this opposition. And when this one falls into the composite chart, you have to be really careful. We end up playing a game with this one because we're both equally interested, and we have equal amounts of power when it comes to how we can bring the other person to their knees, because you can with this opposition. You can. And you have to be careful how you use it, because the amount of passion that it stirs up and the amount of interest and ultimately investment that we end up with in each other can be enormous. And so there is a difficulty in breaking up when we have this opposition. Things can get very, very nasty with the composite aspect as well with this. Resource wars are really common with this opposition. And so because of the amount of hurt or the amount of passion and feelings of connectedness and deep primal passion, those feelings can translate into disgust, distaste, hate, all of those things, resentment. Because we're talking about extreme amounts of feeling. And that feeling often is mixing with difficulty with this opposition. This is not a quiet way for two people to relate to each other. They are hooked into each other where they are really their most passionate. And passion is, related to intensity. So it doesn't imply peace or an easy flow of energy between the two of us. This is intensity. And so some people love this. People with Scorpio Venus or with very highly aspected Venuses to Pluto, or Venus in the 8th house, they can like this because the push-pull, the dance that we do when we have this opposition can work for their style of loving and of Venus because there's a real similarity there. So there are some people who do better with this opposition than others. Some people don't even get to the point where they're really seriously indulging in it. Some people get into it, and this is actually more common. Most people get into it and will find that it doesn't work for them because the levels of attachment and attraction and the game playing that comes up as a result of trying to get to each other, to respond to us in the ways that we need in order to feel valid or to feel seen or loved. That's a real tough thing. So this one does have kind of a nasty reputation. But it can work for certain people, in certain relationships, for certain personalities. But most of the time when you see this one, you're going to have to be really careful. And you're going to want to look at the natal placement of the Venus person, especially to see what is the whole picture there. What are the, how are the two styles meeting there? That'll give you a lot more information about how this opposition is likely to work out. So, I hope this was helpful. If it was, please subscribe to my channel. You can find me on the internet at truthandaspectastrology.com, Facebook, Instagram, other social media at Truth and Aspect Astrology. Yes, I do private consultation. I am mainly a relationship and intimacy astrologer, but I interpret all types of charts under the sun. And I'll be back super soon with more super cool videos. Bye.